Okay, let's start. Welcome everyone to this webinar titled Delivering Quality at Every Stage of Your Development Cycle. Thank you for joining. My name is Samuel Arroyo. I am the VP of Product at Provar. And today we will be talking about quality. You've probably heard many times that quality is a journey, not a destination, and a mantra that goes along those lines. But I like to talk in simple terms and not get very complicated when I talk about different concepts. Today, the webinar is going to be packed with information on how quality looks like for different companies, different levels of maturity. We'll be talking about release management, test operations. How do you increase the maturity or move forward in your journey? So before we get into detail, I like to just zoom back and get back to basics. So if we go to the first principles on just basically how a business runs, businesses will have needs, and I put the sad face in there. They will probably be not happy because they need something and something needs changing. And they're looking for some business outcomes to, let's say, they want to release a new product, they want to increase efficiency, they want to serve their customers better. So they have some needs. They believe they want to achieve some outcomes, or they're aiming that way. And some work needs to happen in between those two things. So we probably don't know at this point what kind of work it is, but we know that something has to change so that our business can achieve those outcomes. If we go one layer deeper, those business needs ideally would be clear. So there's clarity, the business knows what it wants, there's alignment, so everybody's on board, they all want the same thing. And here, some people already maybe nodding their heads like that's not realistic, but this is almost like it should be. What the business needs, those needs should be clear. People should be aligned, that would be ideal. And also whatever they ask for will be feasible. It's actually something that the business can actually accomplish. They have the resources and all of that. They wish that the work was efficient. So with the resources given and the time given, they do it as fast as possible. They don't waste any time. They're almost like a perfect delivery. And they wanted to, obviously, the work should be effective. So whatever it is that they're building or they're changing will achieve the outcomes that were intended for it. And finally, they will achieve those outcomes. So it will have great impact, exactly the impact that they were looking for, and it will be an improvement on what they had before. So this is the ideal scenario, the utopia that we wish was true, but most of the times, if not all the times, isn't. And why isn't it possible to just walk this journey of roses? So the first one, it's very difficult to achieve clarity when you're talking about your business needs, mostly because there's too many unknowns. There's many things that you don't know, you don't have time to know, people don't have the data to take decisions. So it's difficult to get clarity on what needs to be done without any prior work. It's also sometimes difficult to align with your colleagues on what should be done, because people may not feel confident to take a decision without any data to back it up. And also it may not be feasible because who has all the resources they needed and all the time they needed. So those ideals go out of the window very quickly. When you come to do the work, you realize again that you probably don't have enough resources or enough time, and you have to compromise on what was going to be done. Either you stretch people and make them work longer hours, or you reduce the scope, or you change the timeline. one of the things has to change. And you end up delivering some changes to the business, but you're probably not even measuring what changed, how was it before, how is it going to be now. So you don't have any metrics to understand what was the impact. And it may be that people don't even adopt the changes that you made. So you may end up in a situation where after all the work done and all the stress put on the team, it's all a waste of time, to be honest, because you don't know if it was, if you achieved those outcomes. And obviously the question now is, how do we solve these issues? I would almost swear that every team has experienced some of these issues, if not all of them. So I want to drill down a bit into some of those per section. So one of the ways in which we can discover the unknowns and build some data is building assumptions. And usually base your decisions on assumptions, sometimes implicitly, but if you make them explicit and you go for the assumptions first to make sure that your thinking is straight and is right, it may take you a bit more time, but also whatever you choose to do may have lower risk. So any discovery activities that you may do will help you so that you can build some data and get to do smarter decisions. How do you help yourself when you have fewer resources that you need or not enough time? So here, obviously, the recommendation is to first get organized, automate as much as you can, and scale whatever you're doing so it can stretch to the work that you're doing as well. Finally, how do you improve on the metrics and lack of adoption? Having instrumentation, so understanding how your changes are being used by your users, doing maybe user feedback or user surveys as well. It can help, providing help, training within the app, within the daily job, so different courses and so on. Today, we're going to focus just on the middle bit around work and around organization, automation, and scalability. But if you're interested in the other two, I wanted to recommend a couple of books that I actually read, so that's why I can recommend them. If you're interested in understanding how to discover what should be built next, that book, Continuous Discovery Habits, is quite good, by Teresa Torres. And then to understand what to measure and how to set goals and key results, measure what matters, is also a good recommendation. So let's get into the first step. How can we get organized as a team that is trying to deliver that work and in order to achieve those outcomes? I want to step into this from different points of view, and mostly to give you a picture of a journey, more or less, of where you may be at and what may be the next step for you. So looking at how a team manages work, what you usually call like release management, and how would you go from nothing to agility? Basically, you want to track three things: what needs to be done, who is doing it, and when is it being done. I think a level 0 would be everything is done through emails. I send you an email to tell you, please do this, do that, and then another email to ask you how it's going. And you may use emails or just pen and paper to keep track of everything. That would be probably the most basic way of doing it. Level 1 is a bit of an improvement, where you may be using spreadsheets, even to-do lists, or some ticketing or casing systems. So you may be using cases and tickets from your support team to track the work as well. The next level, I think, is a bit more sophisticated. You're starting to track requirements, what needs to be done. You actually define maybe teams or even queues of people that should be working on those things. And you start to provide estimations. You start to provide some idea of when things are going to be done. which definitely helps. And I think that the last level, or definitely one where is a good level of maturity, is level 3, where what needs to be done is structured into epics or big chunks of work. User stories, you start thinking about what needs to be done from the point of view of the end user and what value there is for them. You could start using workflows to assign things automatically and in a smart way. And also, as things progress and change status from being a draft to do in development and so on, you have automation to assign it to the right people and to notify the right people. Finally, you may bundle pieces of work into sprints to define when is it being done and worked on. And you may even come to the conclusion that you need releases to be more organized in how you let the business know that new things are being changed and implemented. So here's a very rough journey from nothing to agility in terms of how you manage the work that you're doing. If you're looking for tools to help you along the journey, so Trello, if you're still on level 1 or level 0 and you want to just go slowly, Trello is like a Kanban board. You can track work in there. Level 2, I'd say Asana can help you up to that level. And then something more sophisticated would be tools like Jira, Azure DevOps, and Provar Manager, which is one of our products and also help you manage your release. Now that you've organized the work that you do, we also, obviously, this webinar is all about quality, but so we need to think about testers and how quality is happening as part of that release aspect. So how would you go from nothing to quality? I would categorize these 3 questions. So first, you need to track what needs to be tested, how does it need to be tested, and what has been tested. So depending on how you answer these questions, you may be on level 0, 1, 2, 3. So level 0 is all undocumented, is all ad hoc, manual. There's no record that anything was tested. Somebody just told you it works and you move on. Level 1, you start using maybe spreadsheets, notes to see how it's going, to keep track of things. Level 2, you may be latching onto an existing system. Maybe you're using Jira and just adding a text field to store that information and a checkbox to say it's been tested. So it's a bit more sophisticated, but still you'll have any tool specific for the job. And finally, if you go to level 3 maturity, you start actually developing a whole framework that helps you test and track the quality of the work that you're doing. So what needs to be tested, you would be using test coverage reports to understand what needs to be tested but isn't being tested yet. You track, you organize your test cases into test suites. You write test plans to define how things are going to be done, the different approaches you're going to take. And then you record your actual executions somewhere, like just test executions or test cycles. Again, if you're looking for different tools, depending on the level you're at, level 2, probably you can do enough with Jira, adding some information to it. And level 3, you can, again, use Provar Manager that would help you manage the quality lifecycle, and Azure DevOps can also help you with that. Okay, so we've done step 1, which is mostly about getting the team organized. There's no point on automating anything or scaling anything if the way that you work is a mess. So my recommendation would be, first, organize yourself the way that you work, and then you will start feeling the pain where there are manual processes that are repeated again and again and again. And you wonder, is there any way that we could automate the pain away? So I want to just quickly look at this and answer this question from the point of view of DevOps. If you're familiar with DevOps, basically it's a way of describing the work that is done from the moment you start planning the work, you code it or you build it, you test it, release it, deploy it, and then you operate it and monitor what's happening with it. And I just wanted to highlight some of the pain points that I believe teams find as they work in this fashion. In terms of code and building, so as you build things, I think there are pains on trying to track the changes that are being done. As you try to push those changes and promote them to resolve conflicts, different versions of those changes that conflict with each other. I'm doing some changes, you're doing some changes, and they conflict for whatever reason. And also the whole idea of how to promote your changes from one development environment to another testing environment can also be a challenge. Around testing, you will find a lot of pain when having to test things manually, especially also if you're trying to do that towards the end of the life cycle, as those changes are about to get into production. You want to test more and more to make sure that nothing else breaks, which is usually called regression testing. You will find that it's just not possible to test as much as you wanted to without automation. And finally, if you're very sophisticated, you may be thinking, how can I use my tests and build sort of gateways to say that this work cannot be promoted unless it reaches this criteria of standard of quality. But I think there's some pain on realizing things are bad or wrong when they were deployed and you want to roll back changes. So I'm not going to talk about all of this. It would take me a few hours. I think that the items in orange, DevOps tools usually are trying to resolve those issues and help you with those. And where we come to the picture is with the pink item. So anything around quality, around testing, that's where we bring value as well. So you feel the pain of those manual processes and you want to understand how to automate that. So you may start looking into test automation. What tools are out there? So I wanted to write down a list of what I think would be my wish list. If I need to choose a tool, I want it to be easy to learn for my team. It has to be easy to use. Whatever I build, I want to build it fast. It doesn't have to take me ages to build. Whatever I build, I don't want it to break, at least not very often. So I don't want to spend a lot of time to maintain what I've done. And if I do it, it has to be easy. And I want to be able to integrate this work within the wider work that is happening with my release team. I also want to be able to operate this whole thing very easily. So that will be my wish list on the ideal test automation tool. And I think that's enough of me talking for now. I actually want to show you Provar Automation, which is our test automation tool. And I want to show you very briefly how we tick those boxes. So I'm gonna just 1 minute start sharing a different screen. Good, so hopefully you can still see my screen. On the first item, that something is easy to learn. There's different ways in which you can learn a test automation tool. I'm proud to say that we do have one of the best training resources out there. We have our own University of Provar with courses where you can train on different tools, different features within the tools, different technologies. We have courses around AI, quality management. Some are more theoretical, some are more hands-on. So in terms of training, I think we have that covered. So I believe that the tool should be easy to learn, and we have definitely plenty of resources for it. In terms of easy to use, so if you've never seen Provar Automation before, this is how it looks like right now. Basically, is a development environment where you have on the left-hand side your test project structure with your test cases, your folders, with your test plans, and so on. You also have connections to the systems that you're testing. So in terms of ease to use, one of the things is obviously you will have to create a test case. Many test automation frameworks will be code-based, so they will ask you to write code. We decided to do things a bit more intuitively. So you don't necessarily have to write any code to build a test case. And actually, I want to create one right now. So I'm going to create a new test case. And I want to just show you how easy it is. So I'm testing a tool that helps me track timesheets. And this test case is actually testing a Salesforce application. So you can choose what connection to use. It could be a Salesforce connection or connection to another website. One of the good things is that we have very specific logic all around testing Salesforce. So let me bring. So what you're looking at now is the test authoring tool. This is the intuitive way in which we allow our users to build their test cases. There's no code involved and everything can be done with clicks. For example, let's say I want to create a new timesheet. So I go to timesheets. What I do is just right click and add to test case. My intention as a tester is to simulate what a user would be doing. So for me, it's just as easy as add step by step what they would be doing. The first thing, just click the new button. And then I can start adding information to projects and say, okay, I want to add this step to my test case where, as you can see here, we know all the fields that are available on the timesheet table or object. And Provar Automation has great knowledge of your Salesforce org, and it will save you a lot of time when testing Salesforce. So here I'm simulating that I'm entering a particular project and I'm clicking enter. Okay, and then I'm gonna simulate that. I click save. So it will do it for me. And finally, I just want to make an assertion to make sure that there was something created. So just keep it simple. I'm going to take a screenshot. So I'm just asserting that the timesheet was created, and there's my test case. I used my intuitive test authoring tool to capture step by step what the user would be doing very intuitively with just right clicks, no code involved. And there we are. So I can close my session now and go back to work on other things. Okay, I'm going to just share the other screen again. So you could see it's very easy to learn, easy to use, it's very quick to build a test case. They're easy to maintain as well because we provide updates that prevent your test cases from breaking when changes happen on platforms like Salesforce. And also we give you tools to be able to build your test cases quicker. Let's move on to the last step. You've got organized in your team. You organize the way in which you manage your work, in the way in which you test and ensure the quality of your work. You've used tools like Provar Automation to automate the testing, so it can be happening faster, and your testers can focus on discovering obscure bugs or doing more exploratory testing instead of just manually repeating the same thing again and again. Now, the reality is you will need to be able to test a lot of information. Your end users will be using different platforms like Mac or Windows or Linux. They will be using different browsers as well, like Chrome, Edge, maybe Firefox. So if you test in a serial way, it will just take you a lot of time to go through all the combinations. So for me, scaling means testing more and testing more often. And ideally, you can achieve that with testing in parallel. Instead of in serial mode, you test many things at the same time. We have a solution for that called Grid, which is a subset of Provar Automation and allows you to run your Provar Automation test cases and test projects in the cloud in parallel. So you can test all the different combinations of operating system and browser at the same time, saving you time to get to the understanding if something is working or not. For me, scalability also means measuring what needs to be done. So being able to understand the test coverage so that you know what is left to be done, and you test more and more of your application in different ways as well. It also means not just testing, functional testing or unit testing. It means measuring the quality of other things, like the quality of your code, and also using AI and analytics to understand how the whole testing operation could be improved. Finally, scalability means orchestration. How are you able to operate all the tests that need to happen? And how do you schedule that? How do you implement that as part of your different processes and applications that you use? And for that, you can use tools like Provar Manager. So we won't have time to look into Provar Manager in depth. I just want to show you a couple of places just to give you a flavor of how it looks like. So Provar Manager is our cloud platform UI that allows you to measure all your testing activities. We have a quality center where you can understand the different executions, grouped and filtered by different metrics. You can look at your defects, test coverage of different sorts, and code quality. It also helps you to operate your tests. So every time that you test, you get the results back into Manager, and you can track and orchestrate either like Salesforce Apex unit tests. So here we have the recording of an execution of Apex unit tests, and you can see all the results here. And this was all orchestrated, so executed, and the results brought in by Manager. You can also use it to run your Provar test cases. Like we have here, you can see a log of all the different test steps and what the outcome was, what the error were, any screenshots, as well as a video of the whole execution to understand how it works, where did it fail, and if there's anything that doesn't look right. Finally, the way in which you can embed quality into everything else that you're doing is by using a tool like Provar Manager that acts as a quality hub. And that means that it's able to connect to your release management tools like Azure DevOps or Jira plugin if you're using those, even though you can use Provar Manager on its own if you want to. It also connects to native and external DevOps tools like Copado, Flossom, Salesforce DevOps Center, and so on. And it also connects to other tools that help you do and measure code quality, like Clayton and Quality Clouds. So definitely is a step on the right direction if you're looking to become more mature in the way that you do testing, the way you orchestrate it, the way that you measure it and track it. So let me just go back to the presentation. I'm going to open up the floor for questions. So feel free to just write down any questions you may have. We only have a couple of minutes to do so before I finalize. Okay, we have one question from Suhas. So do we provide free for practice or need to pay? So Provar Manager you can get for free during a trial period of, I think, 30 days, where you can test how it works and so on, or you can also install it in a test org for an indefinite period of time for you to test, to learn how it works as well. We have other questions. Is Provar Automation built on robot framework? So no, we are, part of the framework is built on top of Selenium, but we're just not only using Selenium. We've developed our own technologies around locators and the way that we understand Salesforce. So on top of Selenium, we have many layers that we've developed to make sure that building tests is easier, to make it more user-friendly, as well as more resilient to changes. So we have our own technologies that we've developed over the years. Even right now, we went GA with a new technology to test ways things in a different way and step away from the classic page objects. So no, we don't use robot framework. What's the cost of Provar Manager? That will depend on the combination of products that you may use. So Provar Manager has a very low entry point. I believe if you go to the App Exchange, you will see the cost in there. But I don't have a number right now in mind. Can the unit testing be performed using Provar? So the developers will write unit tests. And then what Salesforce can do, if we're talking about Salesforce unit test, what Manager can do is connect to the org, decide what unit test to run, bring back the results, and also the test coverage. So it doesn't write the unit test for you, I'm afraid, but it's able to orchestrate their execution and analysis. Can you use Provar for standard web pages? Yeah, absolutely. So obviously our bread and butter is Salesforce, but you can use the automation framework to test websites. Many of our customers use it for end-to-end testing, which is something we're proud of. You can connect to databases, you can connect to APIs, you can connect to websites in order to simulate the whole user journey. Let's say you have a user journey where you want to test that if somebody goes to the website, enters something in the lead form, it goes to Salesforce, and an email is sent to the inbox. You can test the whole process, spanning across different systems, just with one tool. Good. I'll wait just a couple more seconds in case there's any other question. Good. So to summarize, every company is at a different stage in their journey. We looked at the different levels, which you may agree or not, but I think it helps you put a framework of maybe understand where you're at and what a better version would look like. So at least it gives you a bit of understanding of what could be improved in the way that you organize your work, organize the quality of your work, And definitely the main recommendation, the main encouragement is to not only get organized, but automate the pain away and scale the future. So make sure that whatever you're doing works for a long time, but also is automated in such a way that you can use it for many different variations. And you start to not only go vertically into the niche of automating one thing, but horizontally into different types of testing, testing at different points in the process, and scale in that way. So if you're interested in understanding more of where you're at and how we can help you and guide you in this journey, please contact us at provar.com/contact-us, or just send us an email, contact us on LinkedIn, whatever is easier for you. Thank you very much.